Hello students, today we are going to learn a beautiful poem, The Road Not Taken, which is written by Robert Frost. But before I tell you more about the poem, let me tell you about the poet Robert Frost. The full name of Robert Frost is Robert Lee Frost. He was born on March 26, 1874, and he died on January 29, 1963. He was an American poet, was born on 26 March 1874 in San Francisco, California. He is highly regarded for his realistic depiction of rural life. His work frequently employed settings from rural life in the early 20th century, using to examine complex social and philosophical themes. Let's read the first stanza of the poem. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Dear students, listen carefully. I'm explaining now. Once the poet was walking down a road, and then there was a diversion. There were two different paths, and he had to choose one out of them. The poet says that as he was one person, he could travel on one road only. He had to choose one out of these two roads. Yellow woods means a forest with leaves which are wearing out and they have turned yellow in color. The season of autumn. It represents a world which is full of people where people have been living for many years. They represent people who are older than the poet. The poet kept standing there and looked at the path very carefully as far as he could see it. Before taking the path, he wanted to know how it was. Was it suitable for him or no? He was able to see the path till from where it curved, after which it was carved with trees and was hidden. It happens in our life. Also, when we have choices, we have alternatives, but we have to choose only one out of them. We take time to think about the pros and cons, where it is suitable for us or not, and only then we take a decision on what path we should choose. Let's read the second stanza of the poem. Then took the other, just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. In the second stanza, the poet kept on looking at one path for a long time to check if it is right path for him or not. Then he decided and started walking on another path because he felt that the both paths were equally good. He adds that maybe he felt that the path was better for him, so he chooses it as it had grass on it, which means that it was unused. Not many people had walked on this path earlier, that is why this path was grassy. And wanted wear means that it was not walked over by many people. After he walked on the path for some distance, he realized that both paths had been worn out the same way. Both paths were similar and worn out. Even in our life, we take any path or option, but all of them have the same benefits, disadvantages, problems, challenges, and we must face them. We think that we are choosing a better option, but it is not that way. Let's read third stanza of the poem. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. In the third stanza, the poet says that both the paths were similar that morning. Both had leaves on them, and no one had stepped on them as they were still green in color. He decided that that day he would take one path and keep the other path for another day, although he knew that one way leads on to another way. He knew that he could not go back on the choice that he had made. Similarly, even in our life, once we choose an option, we must keep on moving ahead with that option, and we never get a chance to come back and take that other option that we had left earlier. Let's read the last stanza of the poem. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I, I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. In the last stanza, poet says that in the future he will take deep breath and say that once upon a time he had reached such a point in life that there were two options for him, and he traveled on that road which had been traveled upon by a lesser number of people. That decision of his decided his future. Similarly, in future, when you grow up, then you will see that once upon a time when you were young and you had two options, the choice that you made you what you became of it. This is a very strong message for all of the students that you should be wise and be careful while making choices out of the options that you have in your life, because your future depends upon the choice that you make today.